It is Saturday, August 30th here at the West End Gun Club. It's 5:30, got here about 5:10 or so, been setting up in the dark. Decided to come out to the range this morning rather than Labor Day morning because I was going to come out Monday to test fire the 7mm PRC or test loads in the PRC. And I said, I got time this morning. Why don't I just go ahead and go to the range? So packed up the Jeep, threw my rifles in, ammo, and a few pieces of kit. And we will try to get those rounds in, test firing some PRC loads with Fireformed brass. Did a little bit more brass prep this time based on the, compared to just factory out of the box. Hopefully we can reduce the SDs. We'll see. And I'm going to try some different primers. We'll get into that in a moment when I bring out the rifle. It is dark still. I did set up a target out there at 103, I think it says. Yeah, 103.6 minus 1 yard for where I'm standing with relation to the very front of the firing line. And we have a light out there on the target, and hopefully we can see that in the scope. I don't have an illuminated reticle, but really you don't need an illuminated reticle if your target is lit up like this. So we'll see if we can sneak in the rounds before sunup and before people start getting here at around 6:30 or so. I don't know how busy it's going to be at the range on Saturday morning of Labor Day weekend. Maybe people went on road trips, maybe not. Maybe people are staying home and they're saying, hey, let's just go to the range. And so I don't know if it's going to be busy or light, but let's go ahead and try to get what we need to get done before it gets really busy on the range. I set up both chronographs and we are going to go ahead and shoot some Burger 175 Elite Hunters. I loaded up 4 or 5 round batches. We have 68.5 H1000 twice, 5 and 5 of the Federal 215 large magnum match, but the other one has CCI BR2s, which is technically a large rifle primer, not a magnum. I've heard stories that you can run a large rifle primer in a magnum cartridge, but others will say that if you go over a certain grain weight on powder, you're supposed to run a magnum primer, but we'll see. So 68.5 with BR2s and 68.5 with the Fed 215 large rifle match. Then I did 68.8 with BR2s and a 68.8 with Federal large rifle magnum match. We'll go ahead and shoot the Federal 215 68.5s because we know where that's going to be as far as velocity, at least based on the last time I shot. I think they shot just a hair over 3,000 feet per second, but the SDs are 18 or 20. So we'll see how it does with once fired brass, because maybe once fired we'll have better consistency after it's been fireformed. And I might have to move this light because it's causing glare in my eye. So let me move this light. Man, wow, that's a really bad group, and the SDs are all over, like the velocities. Velocities are crazy. So we're looking at an average of, well, the SD's 11, but it's 30-36. Standard deviation 11.1. So the SDs, they go down, but the velocities are climbing pretty rapidly, like 20 feet per second, because the spread is 29.2. And it's all over the place. So I'm a little disappointed in this right now. Let's let it cool down a little bit. It's not that hot. It's pretty cool out here. Nice breeze. We'll move on. Now that we have a baseline with the Federal, we'll shoot 68.5 with CCI BR2s. Still a little dark out here, and I moved the lights around so you can see this, but I did bring out a second gun while I'm waiting for this PRC to cool down. This is my AR-15 in an SPR configuration. I did make 2 modifications here. I added the PRS Gen 3 stock on this thing, which is just Magpul's stock that you use for you know, they made for precision rifle shooting. And I changed out the A2 flash hider on this upper with an Apollo Max muzzle brake or compensator. I don't even know anything about it. I just went online, looked around at various AR-15 muzzle brakes that people think or claim that are decent for this, and I decided to try this Apollo Max. Self-index, or it's like not self-indexing, but you can index it relatively easily with a nut system, and I don't know. We'll see if it shoots okay. But I got some 77 grain Nosler custom competition. People aren't familiar with Noslers. It's basically your standard boat tail hollow point design, 77 grain, equivalent to an SMK. I've got quite a few of these things. I used to buy these things back in the mid 2000s. Nosler used to sell them direct to people. I think it was 1,000 for $100, 1,000 bullets for $100. And that was really good at the time. And they're, in my opinion, equivalent to an SMK, at least to the 200 and 300 yard lines for service rifle. Had no problems with them. So I got tons of them. I ended up, you know, relegating the practice because I switched to Lapua CNRs because I just like the consistency on those as far as quality control on the meat-plats. But yeah, I got a bunch of Nosler custom competitions, 77 grains, and we are going to go ahead and shoot these with triple deuce or 22.2 grains of AR comp. Interesting. It's even on paper. Oh, wow, that's way low. 2650.7. Why is it that low? I thought I zeroed the scope. Well, we're a solid 0.6 up low. I didn't bring my tools with me, but good thing we're low. And probably can afford to come left. What do we got here? Average of 2684 on the Athlon, average of 2681. Not much difference there, 3 foot per second average difference. SD of 17 on the Athlon, 15 on the Garmin. All right, we're switching back to the PRC. We are going to shoot the same load I shot earlier, 68.5, but with CCI BR2 primers, which is a large rifle Benchrest primer. I used to use these in the 308, which I don't have a 308 anymore. I sold my Remington 700 police model, so I don't have a 308 chambered rifle anymore. But I have this Aero Precision Solus, which I bought with the intention of just swapping barrels and cartridges and whatnot. So that's kind of my action for that type of thing, for just range use. Nothing in particular, like no specialty purpose. So if I need a 308, I'll just, you know, acquire a 308 barrel and just keep it in my cabinet to chuck it on whenever I need to. All right, let's go ahead and try this one. Got the chronos set up. 68.5 with the BR2. 68.5 H1000 with BR2, that is. And I lit off the gun early. That first shot don't count. I keep thinking single stage or two stage. I was on paper though, or was on the target 2/10 low. Same spot. to the left of the last. Now the Garmin and the Athlon are reading 20 feet per second different, which is pretty significant, to be honest. It's kind of disconcerting, actually. I'm seeing a lot of scope mirage right now. Early morning, heat coming off the barrel. All right, there it goes. All right, then those two matched up exactly. The chronograph, 2979.6, 2979.7. Got some scope mirage. That group went to shit. That last shot took it up. All right. But I will say this. It looks like, based on this, so the Athlon has some weird data here, but the Garmin is telling me average of 2985 with an SD of 6, while this is telling me an average of 2979 but an SD of, average of 2998 with an SD of 14.3. I need to save this data for sure for my pending review of the Athlon, but this data doesn't look correct. Well, I don't know. One could be correct. One of these is wrong. One of these is right. But the data here, I don't know, it's not jiving. As far as some of the shots that it read, especially considering the difference was so huge. So either the Garmin is just cheating and like not reading it correctly and just interpreting it wrong, or the Athlon is interpreting it wrong. Who knows? But we'll save this data as a comparison. Obviously, we need a third chronograph to do a control, right? It would have been nice to have my magneto speed on here, but anyway, let's go ahead and let's cool down, and we will keep shooting the rest of these rounds. We're going to go ahead and shoot the 68.8, but we'll start off with the CCI BR2s. The SDs were really good with the BR2s in 68.5. What did I say earlier? Like 6. Although the group opened up, like that fifth shot went high, so don't know what to make of that. All right. Chronographs are both set up. Single stage trigger. Of course, the fifth shot opened that group up, but it still looks pretty good. Still looks pretty good. Fifth shot opened it up, but it looks pretty good. All right, let's let this cool down, and we'll shoot the last one with 68.8 with Federal large rifle magnums. But let me read off the data for you. Garmin is showing me average of 3015 with an SD of 5.5. The Athlon is telling me average of, I'd have to cycle through this to show the average, 3022.3 with an SD of 6.1. So The SDs are way better with the BR2s. Velocities are slower comparative by 20 or 30 feet per second with the same powder charge, I think, at least with the 68.5s, than with, you know, Federal 215 match. But I will take slower velocity with that primer versus the Magnum if I can get the SDs down. So I'm going to anticipate that the SDs on the 68.8 with Federal match large rifle will not be good. But we'll wait for a bit, let this cool down, and we will shoot the last 5 of the PRC that we brought today. All right, we're going to shoot the 5 rounds of 68.8 with Federal large rifle magnums. Got people showing up to the range, so we'll get these 5 rounds off and we'll tidy up here and pull in our targets. And that left 5th shot went high. All right. That's it. Let's go ahead and pull in the brass on the targets and roll out of here. But let's go ahead and quickly mention that this is an average of 30-33 on the Garmin with a 15 SD, and on the Athlon average of 30-41 with an SD of 14.5. So the SDs are definitely higher with the Federal, but the group was pretty good. Here's the targets from this morning. This is just the AR-15 SPR that I was shooting these 2 targets here while I was waiting for my barrel to cool down on the 7mm PRC. But this is the first 5 from this morning. This is they're all Burger 175s, all with H1000. This one is 68.5 grains of H1000 with the Federal 215 match. And the first round in the morning, I believe, was here. And it printed here. Then I went left, and then 4 and 5. Really bad group there. Don't know what's going on there. So we shot another group with the Burger 175s with 68.5 H1000 with the CCI BR2 primers. This was a Federal large rifle magnum match, and this one was just the Benchrest primer large rifle. And this shot a really good 4-round group here, and then the 5th round went high. The SD was 6 on this one. I can't recall what the SD was up here, but it was pretty high. So we went on to 68.8 of H1000 with the Burger 175s, but with CCI BR2s. This is just the Benchrest primer, and this is the first 4 rounds, which is incredible, and the 5th round went to the right. But I really like that, and SD was around 5 or 6. However, we went to the same load, 68.8 grains of H1000 with the Burger 175 with the Federal 215M or the large rifle magnum, and I fired this nice 4-round group here, and the 5th shot went high. The SD on this was 15. So this was really good. Obviously, with that, you know, this ruined the whole group, but you can see the accuracy potential here. But this was really good too. So not sure what to make out of this as far as grouping is concerned. Maybe my barrel's starting to settle. However, the SDs tell a different story as far as the CCI BR2s. So it looks like I'm going to stick with the CCI BR2s right now moving forward, because I think the Federal gold medal match with the SDs is not good. Because even though this shot a nice group here with that 5th round errant shot, if you want to call it a flyer or just a anomaly, this SD was 15. So I'm going to develop my next loads. We'll try 68.8 again with CCI BR2s, load a little bit more, and try grouping these in more clean cold bore sessions to see if it shoots like this initially, and it takes a while to heat up and it starts to settle, or if is it, you know, how does it behave on a cold bore, like first 3 or 4 shots. And if I can get this to shoot this tight in the first 3 or 4 shots on a cold bore, then we'll know that that's a good load. But right now this looks really good. Obviously we're just, you know, these are small samples of 5-round groups. Everyone's like, yeah, you got to shoot 20-round groups. But right now this has still got less than 100 rounds on the barrel. What is this now? Based on the brass that I fired, this is the shot 20 rounds, 70. This is 70 rounds in this gun right now, not counting factory. So we're about 100 rounds, almost 100 rounds deep in this barrel. So I'm really liking this though. It is 7:10 right now. It's already becoming a madhouse here at the range. Lots of people rolled in right around 6:30, 6:45. Range staff came in and opened it up, and then you just got people coming on the main line, people in the pistol bays. So it's starting to fill up on a Saturday, which is what you expect. So what's the verdict though? We are going to go with CCI BR2s because right now, CCI BR2s, while it shoots about, I would say, at least the comparable load at 68.5, it is about almost 50 feet per second slower with CCI BR2s, but then on 68.8, it went about 15 feet per second slower. So there is some deviation there as far as the decrease in the velocities, but the SDs with CCI BR2s versus the Federal Large Rifle Magnum match is quite a bit better. So SD, for example, is 11.1 versus 6, and then sorry, I'm looking at the right dates here. 11.1 versus 7.6, and then 15 versus 5.5. So I'll take the 6 and 5.5 SDs with the CCR BR2s with slower velocity, and you'll just have to amp up, add a little bit more to the powder charge. But I think with 68.8 and a CCI BR2, we are still pushing 30-15 with a 175 Burger, 5-shot sampling. So we're going to go ahead and load up 68.5, or 68.8 rather. I said 68.5, 68.8 at 30, just above 3,000. 68.8 at 30-15. We're going to load up more of those because it grouped about half an inch. And we are going to try those out. I'll probably like do 10 or 15 rounds of 68.8 H1000 with CCI BR2s. We'll see what that larger sampling does in a single string on a single group. And then we'll see like what the cold clean bore looks like. I'm going to clean this gun up. And then we'll come back next time I come out to the range with this gun, we'll do a clean cold bore shot and really test that load and see what it looks like on paper. But looking really promising right now. I'm glad that we figured out the SDs. I don't think the brass prep on 1X, like once fired, Fireformed brass helped any, I don't think. So maybe we'll load up some 68.8s with the CCI BR2s in factory brass, brand new brass. I will resize it to get the necks uniformed because they're out around. And maybe I'll run a mandrel, and then that'll be that. But we'll see how it is out of the box versus once fired. I don't think there's going to be much of a difference in SDs. I think the SD was simply the primer. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for this range session. Very short range session, although this might be a long range vlog because of the way I cut videos. But fired off, 20 rounds in AR, 22 rounds in AR, and then 20 rounds in the 7mm PRC. But we'll see. I mean, less than 100 rounds in the gun, but I'm really liking it so far, like as far as the promise. The balance of this gun, I'm going to have a kind of a project build overview blog article rather, written on this before the end of the year for sure, probably the next couple months. But overall, I do like this build. People ask me, do I like the Meyers stock versus say a chassis or the MDT carbon? I like the Meyers stock. It's all about the prep as far as pillar bedding and all that stuff and the action bedding. The amount of prep that you have to put into these things, I think that's the only negative aspect, but I really like the Meyers stock. I think it's a little bit heavier than MDT carbon. And I heard they're coming out with a long action MDT carbon stock, which I may get next year if I can get one. And if it comes out next year and it's available, I may get one. But I really like the feel of the Meyers. I think it's a really nice stock, and I can understand why Meyers is so popular. This is my first Meyers. But I understand why they're so popular. It's a really nice stock. I like the feel of it, the design, the ergonomics, the feel of it when it shoots. It's a really good stock. At least the Meyers long range hunter. I mean, they've got other options out there for whatever discipline or style of shooting you're gonna be doing. But yeah, I really do like this stock. I picked up this cheek piece from Hoptic, this little pad. It's just a adhesive pad. It's we'll see how this holds up. It was not really sticking on the corners there, but because there's this curvature to it, I'm not sure if it's going to hold very well on that. But I like to feel that, the texture, so I added that on there. But we'll talk about this whole build in a future article and as well as a video. But and I'll have a breakdown of all the parts, the reason why I chose the pieces, the components that I did, I acquired to make this build, the price, and then yeah, just overall opinions of the project. So look forward to that by the end of the year. And then yeah, anyway, that's it for today. I'm gonna go ahead and roll out of here. It's only 7:15, but I want to roll out of here and then take care of some Saturday morning errands and then church later this afternoon or evening. So that's it for today, Saturday, August 30th, here at the West End Gun Club. Thanks for watching. Have a good Labor Day weekend, and I'll see you in the next vlog.